So at this point, I don't think anyone could stop Tesla. I don't think there's a single person, a single government. I don't think anyone, anything out there is going to be able to stop Elon Musk and Tesla. As long as Elon Musk is at Tesla, no one, no company, no one can stop him. Maybe if Steve Jobs was still at Apple, maybe, they could come up with an Apple car and they would be able to take out Tesla. But at this point, no one is going to convince me that Elon Musk and Tesla are not going to be the richest, the most valuable company in the world, and Elon Musk is going to be the richest person in the world. There's nothing out there to prove otherwise. And right now, Tesla's China-made Model Y, it took off. Sales took off despite holiday car sales slump. Normally, in China, what happens during the month of January or February, like during the Chinese New Year, sales typically fall a lot because in China they take about a 1 week break, a couple week break from manufacturing. People take, they go home, spend time with their family. And typically that's a time where you see sales decrease significantly. We saw with Chinese electric car startup XPeng, Li Auto, NIO, all of these companies reported significant drops, sharp drops in deliveries for February. And Tesla, they didn't. I don't know how they did it, but they didn't report low numbers. Their sales were continuing to skyrocket, and the Tesla Model Y, the one that they're selling, the SUV, sales took off, and according to data released just the other day by the China Passenger Car Association, they said that Tesla Model Y was the third best-selling electric car in February. They sold 4,630 vehicles, and they're not seeing decreases. They're just not. Everything's stacked up against them. It's like this is a time when all the car companies in China see a sharp drop in deliveries, but not Tesla. It's just not happening, and this is really surprising. In addition to this, Tesla is growing their lead in the battery space. They have the lowest cost batteries by far, and this is really important. So GM is trying to catch up to them. They're doing the best they can, but they're still like 10 years away from even getting close. Because right now, Tesla's lead is very, very substantial over any other electric vehicle company in terms of what they could get the batteries for. And this is important because the most expensive part of an electric vehicle is the battery. The battery is the most expensive part. It costs the most. And that's why electric vehicles cost more on average than combustion engine vehicles. It's because of the battery. If they could get the battery price lower, then the electric vehicles would cost less than combustion engine vehicles. But that's the problem. So what happened is right now, Tesla, they have such a big lead because on average, they pay about $142 per kilowatt hour for battery cells purchased from their three suppliers, Panasonic, LG Chem, and CATL. They pay $142 per kilowatt hour. GM, they're the second closest, and they pay $169 per kilowatt hour. So that's about, That's about a 15% increase from what Tesla pays. So they pay 15% more. In addition to this, the industry average is $186 per kilowatt hour. So 142 versus 186, that's over 30% more what the average car company is going to have to pay to get these batteries for their vehicles, which means the average price of their vehicle is going to have to be 30% more unless they're like a huge company and can compete on price and lose money in the short term. Like GM is a massive company. They could price a little bit lower, lose money in the short term to gain market share, but that's besides the point. The point is that Tesla has an advantage in so many areas. They're building a massive battery plant, like to store energy from the grid in Texas. Their batteries for their vehicles are so much less expensive than any other car company out there, how much they can pay for them. They've done this by building it up over time. In addition to this, we're also seeing that even the Chinese government, the holidays around the world, don't slow down sales at all. The pandemic didn't slow down sales for Tesla. They still hit 500,000 vehicles delivered in 2020. Nothing can slow them down at this point. And if, I had a bet on a company being the most valuable company in the world, it's going to be Tesla, because they have electric vehicles. There's so many steps ahead. They're 50 steps ahead in terms of autonomous driving, robo-taxis. They have their solar energy business and battery pack business. They also are building more battery facilities like in Texas. Battery costs are lower. Elon Musk, he has the boring company, SpaceX. I don't think they can be stopped. I think really anything that they're doing right now doesn't seem to matter. They are continuing to do amazing. And there's so many opportunities they haven't even touched yet in terms of selling more software inside their cars, from, the radios to games or subscription services inside the car for basically the iPad that's in the car. There's so much they haven't even done yet. They've done a lot, but there's so many more opportunities, and Elon Musk and Tesla, you can count on them taking advantage of every single opportunity they have, because it doesn't matter how crazy it is, they're going to go after it. And they have an advantage in so many areas. They're years and years ahead of all of their competitors, and I just don't think they can be stopped. I'm not saying, Tesla's going to the moon. I'm not saying no, I'm just being realistic. They have such a big advantage over all the other car companies in so many different areas. And it's just hard to see anyone else catching up to them anytime soon. And you got to remember, 10 years down the road, if GM can reduce their prices and can get close, well, then Tesla's going to have 10 years to continue to drop their prices. It's going to be really hard for any company to catch up, really, for a long time. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see what happens. And here's a story for you. This is a story I saw. I had to include it early on in this episode because it is absolutely insane. There's a sand shortage. Who would have ever thought that the earth would run out of sand? It's the second most important commodity. It's like the second most used thing behind water. We're not running out of water, at least I hope, anytime soon, but we could run out of sand. And sand is the primary substance used in so many things. It's used in the construction of roads, bridges, high-speed trains, land regeneration projects. Sand and gravel and rock crushed together and melted down are used to make glass. So every single window on every single building, every single house needs sand to make, let's say, the gravel, the concrete, the windows, everything needs sand. And while people don't think about it, they just think, there's so much sand, the ocean. No, it's actually, the world is facing a shortage according to climate scientists, and they say it's one of the greatest sustainability challenges of the 21st century. And this is mind-blowing. I didn't think it was possible to run out of sand. I'm from Florida, you go to the beach, there's so much sand there. And I would just think nothing, how can you run out of sand? There's just more in the ocean. What about all, tens of thousands of miles of the ocean floor? But according to scientists, they say, actually, we're running out. So what's happening is the global use of sand and gravel, the use is found to be 10 times higher than that of cement. So this means that for construction alone, the world consumes about 40 to 50 billion tons. 40 to 50 billion tons of sand every single year. And to put that into perspective, that's enough to build a wall 27 meters high by 27 meters wide that wraps around the entire planet every single year. That, I can't even imagine. What is that, a 50-something foot wide by 50-something foot tall? It's not even a wall. That's a block or a building. It's just a building full of cement that goes around the entire earth. That's crazy to think that is used every single year. And when you start thinking about it, 50 something feet high by 50 something feet tall, around the earth every year in terms of sand, it starts to make sense why we're running out. And according to scientists, this is not a good thing at all. So they're saying that we need to have 5 priorities, 5 things that governments are starting to do. Things are looking a little better, but we need to make sure that these 5 things happen. The first, they said, is cooperation on global standards across all sectors. They said right now there really aren't any standards. People just think, oh, you could just get sand from the beaches. Nothing happens, but it hurts the environment, you know? Having sand on the beach can help stop, like, when there's hurricanes or storms. It prevents a lot of the water from damaging homes and getting it inland. The second thing they said is cost-effective and viable alternatives to river and marine sand. Third is updating environmental, social, and corporate governance frameworks in the financial sector to include sand. Fourth is bringing in ground-level voices and setting regional, national, and global goals on sand use at the right scale. So they said we can't just treat sand like it's unlimited, because the fact of the matter is that we're using sand at a faster rate than how much is produced naturally every year. Every year, you know, naturally there's sand produced by rocks grinding up against each other and, you know, fragmenting into sand and grinding up over a long period of time. But the problem is it doesn't happen overnight. It takes a long time, and we're using so much sand for everything. Buildings, windows, computer chips, everything needs sand. So we had to include this story early on because it was something that is just shocking. There's deserts, there's beaches. How can you run out of sand? It seems impossible. To me, at least, it seems impossible. I don't even know how that happens. Switching gears a bit, though, Beeple sold an NFT for $69 million. And this was through a first of its kind auction at Christie's. And Christie's is a 255-year-old auction house. It sold some of the most famous paintings in history, from the only known portrait of Shakespeare created during his lifetime to the last discovered art piece from Leonardo da Vinci. This is a big deal. And they're selling NFTs now. They sold an NFT, this is the first time they did it, for $69 million. And essentially, what it is there's a few reasons why this sold for so much. So first, let's go over what it is. And what this piece of art was it was called, I believe it was called, where is this? The piece that was sold was called Every Days, the First 5,000 Days. And it's a collage that Winkleman's work started at the beginning of the project when he was just posting crude sketches. And this has been a project that he's been working on for 14 years. This project is in its 14th year. Every single day, he published and created a new piece of digital artwork for 14 years. And the reason why it went for so much money, $69 million, is a few different reasons. So the first is that he has a large fan base, 2.5 million followers across social media channels. And the second is because this was his most famous piece. He had been working on it every single day for 14 years, posting a different, digital piece of artwork. And you can see right here, it's just a whole bunch of small little pictures all in one file. And an NFT, you gotta remember, no one's gonna be able to hang this up on their wall. It's simply the owner got transferred a file and it's on the blockchain now. So they're talking about how the owner could potentially display it in a house, either using a TV or a projector or putting on the side of a building projected. But right now, it's just the person spent that much money, they get a little file. But the way this is going, people see NFTs as being very, very valuable in the future. It's just like owning, people think, like a sports card or a piece of artwork that is, in real life. They think this is the way of the future. What do I think of it? I think it has some potential. I don't know. There's going to be, I think, a few pieces that are going to be very valuable years from now. And I think a lot of the money that people are spending is going to go to be a waste. But I think this, for example, is going to be one of the most famous pieces of all time because it was the most expensive one sold. It was the first one ever sold at Christie's, which is really big. And I think years from now, this piece could be worth a lot more money just because of the history behind it. So the person who did this, he was about just as shocked as anyone else. This is what his Twitter said, and that just about sums it up. He couldn't believe it at all. And maybe this is the way of the future. Maybe we're going to see more go for tens of millions of dollars. But I think this was a special piece because of where it was sold, how many years it had been in the works for, and because of who had created it. But his tweet just about sums it up after he sold it. $69 million, his life has changed forever. I mean, he wasn't poor beforehand, but now that's a lot of money. A lot of money. Now on to a company called Canoo. They just revealed a very interesting electric pickup truck, and this makes you think of a movie. When you see this truck, you think it's straight out of a movie. It almost looks like cute looking. It looks like a small little truck, but in reality, this is not a toy truck, and it actually has a lot of really, really cool features. So Canoo is an electric vehicle startup, and they've been working on electric vehicles for a while now. They're even a publicly traded company under the stock ticker symbol GOEV. They went public via a SPAC merger in the end of 2020, like a lot of companies out there. But right now, the EV truck that they're working on is not due out until 2023. And by that time, we're already going to have the Tesla Cybertruck, the Hummer pickup truck, Ford's electric F-150, Rivian's EV pickup, and a lot of other companies are already going to have their pickup trucks, electric pickup trucks, on the road. So by no means is this going to be the first. But in my opinion, this one seems like a truck that is the most useful, most practical. A lot of features it has. So they said they're going to start taking pre-orders this year, but some of the features that this truck has, you can see it right here, but some of them is the truck bed. It flips down like a normal truck bed, but it also folds out. The sides fold out, and you'll see in the picture right here, see, so the back folds down, and then from the truck, there's a lot. The sides of the pickup truck, of the bed of the truck, fold down as well. So it folds back just like a normal truck, but then the sides of the car also fold down, and it also has a lot of different charging ports, a couple of other things that slide out of the car for storage, for doing work if you're working with it. There's a lot of different features on this truck that make it really, really customizable, really practical and useful if you're getting a truck. This picture, on the other hand, though, with this part to it, makes it look, this looks like it's straight out of either a movie. This one looks pretty interesting. In my opinion, just the pickup truck version looks like something I could see a lot of people wanting because it's very practical. This version, on the other hand, with the cab on top, let's just say it looks, how can that even fit under a bridge? Like, you see the top part, it looks like it's too high to fit into most parking garages, most bridges. I don't know what I think about it. But let me know what you guys think about this design with the back piece attached to it. But right now, they said in terms of specs, the highest cost all-wheel drive truck will have 600 horsepower and more than 200 miles of range. In my opinion, that's nothing. 200 miles of range is not enough. And they said the lower cost will get closer to 100 miles of range and feature a single motor in the rear. So in my opinion, I like the design, I like the functionality, but the range is not looking too hot. 100 miles for the standard, 200 miles for the upgraded version, that doesn't look too good to me. 100 miles is nothing. And they said maybe they'll find a way to be able to get up to 300 miles by the time it is released because batteries are getting better and better. And by 2023, there might even be solid-state batteries available that people are going to be using, companies are going to use. So they might be able to get to 300 miles, which is, in my opinion, reasonable. But 100 miles per charge, that's not enough. You can't go, like, people travel 50 miles one way easily to go to work sometimes. And only having 100 miles of range, that's, especially with a truck, if you're going from job to job and you're thinking of the functionality, that's what their whole company's about. If you're thinking of the functionality, 100 miles can't really do much. What are you going to do? Drive to work, go, let's say you're doing construction, you're driving from place to place, and then you just have to come home in the middle of the day to charge? That's not going to work. That's not going to work. So they're going to have to get that battery lasting longer. But the truck does look very functional, and I especially like the bed of the truck, which folds out and back. So I like that. Moving on, Disney World is turning iPhones into the ticket at the park, and I'm pretty sad about this. I used to always go to Disney World. I'm from Florida. It was like a 3-hour drive from where I grew up, and with Disney World, I would keep the tickets. I would always keep the tickets. If I go to baseball games, let's say on a date, or like, I like keeping the tickets of cool places I go to. They always are changing the designs on it. If it's a sporting event, then you'll see different players on it. If it's going to the theme parks, they'll have different designs. I like the tickets. But now Disney World, they're saying that they're launching something called Magic Mobile, which is a new service that lets visitors scan their way through Florida's Disney World Resort using their phone. It's essentially what it looks like from the pictures, from what I've seen, is it's like a card that goes in your Apple Wallet on your phone, and you just use your Apple Wallet to scan the card. I don't know if I'm a big fan of this. They still have tickets available, but eventually this is going to be what they do. It's eventually they're going to transition to have all people use some sort of digital ticket. But I actually really like the physical tickets. I like to have them for the places I go. I pin them up on a board. I still have some just in the other room over there with pinned up. But right now with this, it's only available on Apple iPhones. It's just eventually going to be rolled out to Apple Watches, and they didn't talk about Androids, but it's definitely going to have to be added to Androids at some point. So right now, only available on Apple. Eventually, it's going to roll out to the Apple Watch and other smart devices like Androids in the future. And they explained how this is a contact-free approach, and part of everything they're doing with the pandemic, because all the locations are opening back up for Disney World. They're opening. The one in Florida has been open for a while. The one in California is opening up in April of 2021. So these are other things they're putting in place to make it less like you have to be in contact with other people. You could just scan your phone. You don't have to hand a ticket back and forth to the person there. So this is some of the changes they're making, but I don't know if I'm a big fan of this. I like collecting the tickets, and be sad to see them go. But they are this is the first step in getting rid of tickets altogether, just doing the mobile experience. Now on to another story, which is with daylight saving time and what is going on there. So senators right now are looking to bring back a bill that would ditch the time change altogether and make it so you don't have to put your clocks forward or shift them back. And right now, a lot of people are saying that this is just an inconvenience. It doesn't do anything anymore, and people really just dislike the biannual time change that happens. It's coming up very soon. There's always one in March, and there's always one in... So there's one in the spring and one in the fall. Originally, I always thought that these time changes were meant for farmers in the first place, but I looked into it a bit more, and I thought it was always for farmers and what was for harvesting crops. But supposedly, this is not the case. They explained how farmers, this actually didn't help them at all, because farmers really just relied more on the actual sunlight. Like when it got light out, that's when they would have to go out harvest their things. And they said this actually hurt a lot of farmers, because if they had to hire people to work on the farm with them and they had to come in a lot earlier, well, then it's like before normal hours and they would have to pay a little bit more. But they said it was really more so for urban entities such as retail outlets, recreational businesses, and not as much for rural and the farmers, the benefit of this. So Marco Rubio, he brought back a bill that was called the Sunshine Protection Act, which would make DST permanent across the U.S., means that we wouldn't have to switch our time back and forth twice a year. And originally it was just a way to extend usable daylight hours and save energy, but now they don't see a need for it. It's more of just an annoyance. Just a quick story there. I thought it was pretty interesting. Here's another story for you with Porsche. Porsche just announced their Porsche E-Bike. They announced two different models. They announced one which is a road bike and one which is a mountain bike. And these come in at a hefty price. So the Sport, which is their road bike, is priced at $13,000. And their multi-train Cross is priced at $10,000. You're starting to get into the price of a car with these. You could easily buy a car, maybe not a new one, but you could easily buy a car for $13,000. It's not hard at all, and this is for an electric bike. I mean, a lot of car companies out there are jumping into making electric bikes. Mercedes-Benz has one for $4,500. BMW has one for $3,260. Jeep is selling one for $7,400. We're also seeing motorcycle companies. We're seeing Harley-Davidson. They have a really cool looking electric bicycle, which they're selling. And now Porsche is stepping in as well. And the reason they're justifying their price, because this seems, I don't know too many people who are going to be spending $13,000 on a bike other than just to say they have a Porsche bike. I don't see too many. This is not something that is going to have a lot of sales because most people simply can't afford it or don't want to spend $13,000 or even $10,000 on a bike. But they said it doesn't have so much to do with just the brand name. That is a portion of it because no other company is going to be trying to sell a bike for $13,000 unless you're talking about like Ferrari or another luxury car brand, because like Mercedes, their electric bike is for $4,000. But they explained how the Porsche electric bike, the road bike, and the mountain bike are designed in Porsche's own design studio, work directly like where they work on the cars. And they said this is important because a lot of e-bikes that car companies or motorcycle companies are working on aren't developed in the same place. They create another business for these electric bikes, and they're not developed with the same precision, the same people who work on the actual cars. And Porsche is like, well, we're manufacturing our bikes with the same technology, the same place where our cars are manufactured, and I guess that's worth $13,000. I guess that's worth $13,000 because these are they're not like special. The road bike top speed is 15.5 miles an hour. It's just built for everyday city riding. And the e-bike Cross, it is carbon fiber with a more rugged design, but it's nothing so unusual or amazing about these. It's pretty standard for what electric bikes are right now and what other companies are making. So really, that $13,000 price and $10,000 price is just because it's a Porsche. In my mind, it's just because it's a Porsche. But let me know what you guys think. Crazy stuff. Electric bikes, car companies, they're all looking towards electric bikes instead of making electric cars. You'd think they just want to stick with electric cars, but I guess the electric bike market is growing rapidly because of the pandemic, and it's probably a lot easier to make an electric bike than it is a car. And with that market growing, they just want to hop into that early on. Now into the Bitcoin, Dogecoin, Ethereum news of the day, the crypto news of the day. And a luxury U.S. hotel group now officially accepts Bitcoin, Dogecoin, and other cryptos. And this is a big step in the right direction for Bitcoin, the adoption of it. We're seeing Square and a lot of payment processing companies starting to hold Bitcoin and starting to accept Bitcoin because people want to pay with it. Uber's looking to accept Bitcoin. If people want to pay with it, companies are going to start accepting it. It's pretty simple. And in an announcement just the other day, the TSLa collection said guests can now use cryptocurrencies such as Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ether, and Dogecoin, as well as stablecoins such as USDC, Binance USD, Gemini Dollar, and PAX as a form of payment. They said for people who want to pay with crypto, all they need to do is TSLa Hotel Collections will send them an email invoice allowing guests to pay with a BitPay wallet. And this is going to make it a lot easier for people who are traveling globally with exchange rates. It's a lot cheaper because of the exchange rates. And also, this is a big deal because TSLa Collection they own a number of different hotels across the U.S. They own Beaver Creek Lodge, Casa Monica Resort and Spa, Elliott Park Hotel, Grand Bohemian Hotels, Asheville and Charlotte, and a lot more. And I think we're going to continue to see more and more companies do this because moving forward, if one of your competitors starts to allow people to pay with Bitcoin and Ethereum and Dogecoin, some people might choose to go there simply because they want to pay with Bitcoin or Ethereum because they have money in that and they want to pay with that. So I think we're going to see a lot of other companies, now hotels, I think we're going to see a lot of hotels start to accept cryptocurrency because if they don't, their competitors might take business away from them simply because of the fact that they're making it easier for customers to pay. If there's two competing hotels that are very similar in the same area, people might just choose to go where they can pay with Bitcoin or Ethereum because it's easier with exchange rates and they just want to pay with that. So I think that's something we'll see. This is a great move for the adoption of cryptocurrency, and we're continuing to see Bitcoin's price, Ethereum's price continue to skyrocket, closing in on $60,000 for Bitcoin. And that's actually causing a lot of people to get worried. And Bill Gates, he has not been the biggest fan of crypto for a while. He's been a little worried, to say the least. And it's not for the reason that you guys would think. It's not for the reason I thought either. So he explained how the reason why he is not so pro Bitcoin right now, among many reasons, but one of them is that he's concerned about the process required to actually produce and mine the digital currencies. He says it takes up so much energy to mine crypto, and it's only getting harder and harder. You need supercomputers that take up buildings. There's like, they look like entire cities where they're just computer stacked on computer stacked on computer, and that's how they mine the Bitcoin. And it takes up so much electricity to do this. And according to Bill Gates in a recent interview, he said Bitcoin uses more energy per transaction than any other method known to mankind. It takes up so much electricity, and that's not great for the environment. It's not a good climate thing. Another thing to consider is that according to a study by Cambridge University, they found that Bitcoin consumes more electricity to mine than the entire country of Argentina and the Ukraine. And to think about that, Bitcoin, it takes more energy to mine it than what entire countries consume in a year. And that's starting to get that seems mind-blowing. That's like the sand story we spoke about earlier. Like, how can you run out of sand? Same thing with Bitcoin. How can Bitcoin take up more energy to mine than an entire country? And like Argentina, Ukraine, those aren't small countries. Those aren't small countries by any means. It's not like we're talking about the Vatican, which is like the smallest country in the world. No, we're talking about substantial countries with tens of millions of people, and Bitcoin consumes more energy than that. So Bill Gates, he explained how that is his main concern. He said he could change his outlook on cryptocurrency if platforms embraced green energy practices for mining and for the transactions. But he said if it's not green electricity, if it's not green electricity, he's not really behind it. He doesn't like the idea of it for many reasons, but especially he's a big proponent of climate, spending money to help the environment, make sure the world is here for a long time. He's a big proponent of that. He wants to donate all of his money to, help out with these sort of initiatives. So that's why, for many reasons, why he doesn't like Bitcoin. And what he's saying has a good point. But at this point, they're either going to need to find new methods to mine Bitcoin and for the transactions. And the good news is with Bitcoin, there's only 21 million Bitcoin that will ever be mined. And we're getting close to that number. We're getting very close to having the total 21 million Bitcoin mined. It's not happening tomorrow, but we are getting a lot closer. So that won't be a worry pretty soon. But in the meantime, it still takes up a lot of energy. And speaking of billionaires, like Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, his net worth officially surpassed $100 billion for the first time ever, as Berkshire Hathaway shares hit a record. They got over $400,000 per share, and he owns 249,000 shares of Berkshire Hathaway. He owns 249,000 shares, and it's valued at over $400,000 a share. And I don't think it's going down anytime soon, because a lot of people were expecting Berkshire Hathaway to have a pretty bad year in 2020, but they didn't. They actually did a lot better than people were expecting, and the revenues totaled $245.5 billion in 2020, and that's only a 3.5% year-over-year decline. A lot of people expected they would see a much bigger decline, but that wasn't the case at all. And analysts are very bullish on Berkshire because not only do they do much better than expected, they're in a lot of these plays that are going to really benefit from the economy opening back up in 2021, and they have $138 billion in cash just sitting there ready to make an acquisition or take advantage of any opportunity that comes up. A big opportunity, $138 billion. They could buy 99% of the companies in the entire world. They could buy any company they want with that. $138 billion is more than most companies will ever be worth. And they can make a pretty big acquisition with this, or they can make lots of smaller acquisitions. So be something to keep an eye out for. But Warren Buffett now is officially worth more than $100 billion. He didn't need the money, but pretty cool to be over that $100 billion mark. Join people like Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and other billionaires as well. Speaking of billions of dollars, Joe Biden just officially passed the $1.9 trillion stimulus bill. And now people are going to be receiving their stimulus checks very, very soon. People already started to receive their $1,400 stimulus checks as part of this bill. And as part of the bill, people who make $75,000 a year or less will receive the full $1,400 stimulus check. People, if you're an individual, married couples, if you make less than $150,000 a year, you'll receive the full stimulus check. And on top of this, they also extended the boosted unemployment benefits, which are $300 per week through now September of 2021. So officially this has passed. A lot of people have been waiting on more stimulus to pass for a while now. So this is absolutely great news. If you received direct deposit for your second or first stimulus check, you'll be receiving yours sooner. If you received a direct check in the mail or with a prepaid debit card, it's going to take a little longer to get those stimulus checks out. So you're going to have to wait a little longer than the people who have direct deposit. Next up is with Roblox. Roblox recently had its IPO, and Cathie Wood and ARK Invest just purchased a lot of shares. They purchased 500,000 shares the first day it was available for trading, and this is a really big deal because most of the time you don't see ARK Invest and put money into a company that the day it IPOs. You don't see that a lot. And with Roblox, what I like about them personally is that they really focus on their creators. And the way it works is their platform is made up of a lot of different games that people like regular everyday people make these games for the platform. And they're making sure to pay their creators a lot, because the only way that Roblox does well is if these creators are incentivized to continue to develop the games, make new games, make their games better, and that is what they're doing. So ARK Invest obviously thinks it's an innovative company. They bought 500,000 shares, a little over $36 million, the very first day it IPO'd, which you don't really see ever. And ARK Invest did struggle a bit when all the tech stocks had their sell-off, but they've been buying a lot of different stocks, and Roblox, stock ticker symbol RBLX, is a stock that they did put a massive amount of money into the very first day it started trading. I think this company has a lot of potential, and really, as long as they're paying their creators, there's never going to be a shortage of games. If people don't like a game anymore, there's going to be a new creator, new developer who makes a new game. So that's something that I actually really like about it. Moving on is to Bumble. Bumble just released its new Night In feature in an attempt to break the ice on virtual dates. And this is a big move. So a lot of these dating apps like Tinder and Bumble and all the other ones, what they have been doing is during the pandemic, the texting features and the voice and video calling features, the usage of those have increased tremendously during the pandemic. According to Bumble, they said their voice and video calling features were used 70% more after the pandemic started versus before. And at this point, that doesn't separate any of these dating apps. But what Bumble did instead is they launched a new feature called Night In. And essentially, it's a series of trivia questions that you can answer together after, I guess, you match with someone. And Bumble's Night In, it can be organized using the icon in a chat message. And the virtual date can be scheduled ahead of time for between 6 p.m. and midnight on any day of the week. And once scheduled, both participants will be sent reminders and notifications by the app ahead of the date. And this is pretty exciting because according to a recent survey, Bumble says that almost half of the respondents in the U.S. said that they would actually prefer to have the first date be a virtual date versus being in person. I don't know if that's because of the pandemic or not, but either way, they're not going to be getting rid of this feature anytime soon because it seems like a lot of people really like it. They just released it, but it's seeming to get a lot of traction. A lot of users actually really, really like it. Last two stories of the day. First one is with Netflix. Netflix is officially in talks and testing, cracking down the password sharing. Anyone who has a Netflix account knows about this. If you have a Netflix account and you have the one where you could watch on multiple screens at once, so many people share their passwords, whether it's with people in your family, your friends. I know so many people who just share their passwords. And this is nothing new. This isn't a new issue for Netflix, but Netflix is officially trying out a new policy with some of its customers, prompting certain people to sign up for a separate account if they aren't watching with the subscriber. So on the screen, the message says, if you don't live with the owner of this account, you need your own account to keep watching. And this was first reported by Streamable. And Netflix, they said they try hundreds of these sort of tests every single year. This isn't anything new. And they do this with select customers. They explain how the test is designed to ensure people using Netflix accounts are authorized to do so, but in reality, I don't think this is going to change much of anything. I don't think they're going to start cracking down on this really intense anytime soon because about 33% of all Netflix users share their password with at least one other person, according to research, and I don't know how they're going to be able to change this because the way the plans work is the basic plan is $8.99 a month, but the standard plan is $13.99, and that allows users to watch Netflix on two screens at the same time. And if you could watch on two screens at the same time, then you're definitely going to be sharing your sharing your password with someone else is going to continue because people aren't normally watching. One person isn't going to be watching one show on their computer or phone and one show on a TV. So it's not really going to happen very much. So if they have it that you could watch on multiple devices at once, people are going to continue to share unless they do something with like an IP address or location. And still, even with that, they can't because if they're saying you have to live with the person, and you could live with the person but be like at the library, at school, at a restaurant, and be watching. So I don't think they could do much with that, but they are starting to test some ways that they could crack down on the password sharing. And last story of the day, this relates back to what I talked about in the last episode, which was Chipotle. Chipotle released the quesadilla officially on their menu, and in response to this, or around the same exact time, Taco Bell, they brought back their quesalupa. And I don't know if this is just a coincidence or if it was something they did intentionally. I think they did it intentionally, but they officially brought back the quesalupa. Officially, it was debuted in 2016. It was tested in 2015, and it hasn't been on the menu for a little while now, but they said the new version of the quesalupa has 50% more cheese than the original. They didn't make a big deal out of this announcement like Chipotle did. They simply said one message. They said, "We think you'll like it," and the quesalupa is back. So, and I don't know what to think of this. I don't know my feelings on it. I've never had one. I like Chipotle a lot better, but officially the quesalupa is back on the menu. Been tested for years. It was off the menu, and I think this is mainly in response to what Chipotle did. But let me know what you guys think. And that's really all I got for you in today's episode. If you made it this far, comment down below an emoji of a taco. I don't know if they have quesadillas, so let's just do tacos. Comment. I know they have a taco emoji, so comment down below a taco. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to get your 4 free stocks valued up to $1,600 when you download the Webull investing app. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys in the next episode.